There we go.
Okay. Can you see me for my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me do a couple of quick things here. Let me turn off that draft. Well, let's see. I don't want that one. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I want to do that.
All right.
Okay, what I've got here is an approaching building,
Okay.
and I need to. This plat is drawn at 1 inch equals 150 feet, which I had to do to get things to fit on the plat.
Right.
But I need to create an inset that shows that in more detail.
Sure. Yep.
The inset there. Now I remembered some of what we did, and I started to do it over here. And this is on the layer viewport.
Yep. Yep.
And,
So
and
far,
we
so
did this
good.
once before on the Crawford job, but I don't think we taped the first part of the Crawford job because I couldn't find how you did that. I verified that they were on that they were viewports.
Yep.
But
That is
when I went
true.
to the model, I couldn't find anywhere on the model where they were.
Oh.
So
Okay. All right. Well, it is quite easy to do this. How there's a little trick that you need to be aware of. And that is that these viewports, like I believe, have to be
now that's not actually a viewport, it's just on the viewport layer. I couldn't remember how to
right.
create the
Well,
viewport.
I know, but that's the way you create a viewport is you either go up to the view menu and choose create a viewport, and those are just rectangular viewports like what you're normally using. But you can also create a viewport out of a drawn polyline. Now, in that case, it does need to be a polyline. I don't believe a circle will work. So what
Okay,
you have drawn is a circle, but that's no problem because you have Carlson, and Carlson has this lovely command called entities to polylines, and you can turn that into a polyline. But first, before we do that, let's look and see if indeed viewports cannot use a circle. So let's go up to the view menu and look at viewports about halfway down right there, and it says create model view. Okay.
click on that.
Yes, sir. And let's look at our prompt. It says, you see one of the prompts is E for entity.
Yes.
So type E, hit enter, and then choose that right there, and then hit entity and hit entity to finish.
Enter to finish.
Yes, I'm sorry, I said entity. Yeah, just hit enter. Okay, now, if you
Double click
select,
inside.
yeah, so if you select the circle. Wow, okay, so it does work inside a circle. Now, go ahead and double click inside and then double click the wheel so that you do a zoom extents. Okay, apparently there's a stray point or something somewhere. All right,
I didn't. Oh,
there you go. Now, pull that around and get it like centered up, and you can either do this at a specific nominal scale, whatever the nearest nominal scale is, or you can just zoom it up and say not to scale if you dimension your areas. And if you need to, let's say if you wanted to make it a little bit bigger to show that, then all you have to do is when you click outside of that viewport, just grab that circle and stretch the radius points.
I think I probably need to do that. That's not.
Yeah, yeah, because I think you should show that nearby point so you can dimension how close it is, or you can at least see how close it is to the near point on the market. So now once you get that there, double click now outside. Now select the viewports. Don't press it. Yeah, no, yeah, just select it and look at the properties. And it is the scale is only showing to the single decimal point. Type units for a minute and let's set the decimal points up high enough so we can see it. Units with an S. There you go. And you see that display precision, it says
Yeah.
1, make that something like 6. You can set it back down to whatever you want. I would leave it at 2 though, just so you can see distances when you're normally working. All right, so go ahead and say that. Say, okay, now select that circle, the viewport, and look at the scale. All right, so it is at a custom scale of 0.04. So what is that, like 1 to 25 or
Let me see here.
an inch equals something. Remember the factor of 12, whatever it is. Like you could
25.
Yeah, so 25. One quick sec. Are you
Yes,
no, are you on the way to work now? You're not coming back in?
I'm on my way to work.
Okay. So have a great day. Love you. Mike says hi.
Good night.
Hello.
All right, she's heading to work. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah. So so now you've got it at 0.04. If you want it to be like, let's say 1 inch. Shoot, let me see. 1 inch equals let's say if we did it at 1 inch equals 10 feet. That's a 0.008333333. So, but that's what is, let's see,
Oh,
0.04.
the display isn't locked yet.
Right, that's correct. So, so if you let's see, let's see, I don't know why I'm having such a difficult time with this. Let's see, it's if I want to set that to so now 0.04. Yeah, so that's 1 inch equals 25 inches. Is that right? Yeah, no, it can't be right. Yeah, does that look like, here, let me try something here. Let me see something. I'll go ahead and I'm going to request a remote control.
Okay.
And I wanna see something here for a second. All right, so that distance that's 56. And that distance in paper is about like 2. So that's like an inch equals 25 feet. Okay, so I'm getting this sort of correct now. Which is an odd thing. So if we want it to be like an inch equals 20 feet, that needs to be what, 0.05 as a scale. I think this is right. So if we select this and change this to 0.05, all right, so that's 20. Yeah, see right there, it figures out the 20, the standard scale. Below
Okay.
it's 1 to 20. So we're gonna put this up. We can find it. There it is. There we go. And now let's go ahead and lock it. Now, when it's locked, of course, it's not going to change its position there, but we can still change its size and, you know, things like that, and even where it is on the sheet. All right, so let's, now what I want to do is I want to scoot it over on the inside. So I now need to unlock it a little bit and then bring this sort of like into, does that, what all is, do we want to dimension the distance away from this point
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, I can do that on the other, I can move that distance. I don't know what to do. I'll move the point too, so you can't see it.
Well, you can, I mean, you can still show that, but like these different dimensions, if you double click in here and then freeze these layers, and you know, you could, I'll go up here and do this like this and this.
Okay, how'd you do that?
I double clicked inside it. So once you're in the viewport, if you freeze a layer, it only freezes in that viewport. Now to freeze the layer, I chose this tool right up here. Freeze
Okay.
layer by pick. So I don't have to go and get it. Now, I also see your arrow is on your layer called boundary.
Yeah,
And I think if I were you, I would put those on like a dimensions or something that's not got that dashed line type.
right.
There's dimension text, like dimension text.
Okay.
So that's probably a better layer for those to live on. And all right, so anyway, now this I would close that down to like so, and put this back as a locked, and then I would put this back over here. And then now you see when we froze those layers, those dimensions, when I picked them, they didn't freeze over here because inside this viewport, you know, they're thawed. So
Right.
they're, you know, that's the way we want them to be. But it's inside this other viewport that we wanted those to be frozen, or, you know, perhaps whatever. And you can even change, you know, line weights and line types and stuff inside this viewport that do not affect items inside, you know, it doesn't affect these other items. Where that happens is if I look at this layers explorer, if you freeze or thaw or change the line weight or the line type of a layer, and here's your line types here. If you do all that stuff at this first half of this box, it changes it for the entire drawing, no matter what viewport you're in, unless you do the viewport override. But what we just did is exactly the same as if we went over to here, where it says current viewport,
Okay,
freeze or thaw. New viewport freeze or thaw just determines as to whether or not it, when you create a new viewport, it comes in frozen or thawed. But you see this VP color, VP line type, VP line weight. These are what are called the overrides. So if you change something here, and this other half of this box only shows up if you're inside a viewport. Okay, so if you're out in back on the model tab or out in model space, you won't see this stuff. You'll only see this first half. But if you're inside a viewport, now you can control it for within that viewport. So if I look at those, you know, wherever, I don't know the name of that layer that I froze with the pick. But if I click here and sort, let me click one more time to put them up here at the top. So I've got two frozen layers inside this current viewport. And those layers are, if I scroll back over, see that point number and C topo minor are both frozen inside that viewport. But if I look here in this column, you see they're still thawed over here.
right,
Below,
right.
but within the viewport, they're frozen. So that's how that works. But how you do that without having to pull that list down and find the layer and do all that is you just choose this freeze layer by pick, or you could do this freeze layer where you pick a bunch of them and then hit enter. But you do that, and that allows you to just graphically grab them. You don't have to figure out what they are.
Can
Now,
we freeze those arrows in that viewport?
I would say probably. And so you can, I'll let you do that. So make sure you're in the viewport. So double click. Now, go up
Have
to
to
tool.
turn the lock off first, don't I? Or-
No, you don't. You
Okay,
just, yeah, just there you go. Grab that. So the lock only controls the scaling and
okay.
the other.
Now I need to put a label in here that says inset in the scale.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
I do that in paper space or in model space?
I would do that in paper space just so you can like drag it around. I'd put it on the outside, put it underneath. Now, one thing I would do too is while you're
Not letting me, I'm double clicking outside, but it's not letting me get out of the model.
well, that's because you're in let me see, hold on. It just there we go. Now,
What did you do?
that's because it was still it was in the middle of a command. So now Yeah, so I escaped it. Now, one thing that you can also do, you see that property line?
Yeah,
If I double click inside it here and I look at that, when you get two of them, let's see, there's one. If you got two lines stacked up on top of each other, if I choose that one and I look over here and I see that's that overall outside, goes from here to here and up this side.
mhm.
If I choose, let's escape that. And if I choose this first one, that's just from here to here.
Okay, we can probably delete that.
That's exactly what it'll do. You know, you could either delete it or put it on a different layer. So deleting it, now you see we've got a much nicer
Yeah,
thing that looks like a property line. Now, I also want to consider, let's see, this point is on layer boundary, which you'd probably want to keep. Trying to think, do I want to keep that? See, I don't want that point to be 25 feet big necessarily. So I need to keep, I can't freeze boundary because that's going to freeze my property line. But if I make an exception for that point and put it on a new layer, I'm going to come up here to my layers and I'm going to create a new one called, let's see, you've got boundary merger, boundary river. I'll just call this one boundary point temp. And I'm going to go ahead and set it to be frozen. And this layer, oh wait, no, I don't want it to be frozen. Boundary point temp. There we go, like that. And if I select that one point and put it on boundary point temp, see, we're going to show now. I need to make it the same line weight as boundary, which is 0.5. All right, so now boundary point temp holds that point in the whole world, all over all these viewports. So while I'm in this viewport, I could freeze this point on this layer, so it's only frozen in this viewpoint. Now, is that this point, there's no vertex on this boundary line at this point. That's what I was trying to figure out. So I'm going to temporarily draw this little line here just as a marker, and I'm going to go from the center of this point off to here. All right, that's just a marker. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to freeze this layer. Okay. And now I'm going to just simply draw the symbol, which is that SPT4W, which is what I want. Okay. And the symbol scale. Now this time, that would be, you know, this size like we just had it, like you've been drawing points. And this scale here, I wish, this is one of the things that sort of aggravates me about some of the Carlson stuff is that that's not a consistent way of using that term, because when you see that they use the term scalar all over the place, and that means plotted inches, and this time this is just real ground scale. So I'm going to set that to be, you know, something like 0.05. I think we'll try it and see what it looks like. We'll say okay, and we'll put it right there and hit enter, and that was wow, way too tiny. So let's select it, and we'll change its scale. Just make it 1, 1, and 1. See what that does for us. Getting closer. All right. So that's maybe too big. So let's say 2, 2, 2. Don't really need to change the Z scale. All right. Now, so I think that, and I'll take that and get rid of it. It was just a marker. So now there you've got a way of showing this. Now, what I would also do, Mike, because right now this circle, which is a viewport, is on a layer called viewports, which will not plot. So when this plots, you wouldn't see anything but this line and stuff. It doesn't really look like a viewport. Now you can also, that viewport also, by the way, could be rectangular. It doesn't have to be a circle, but you might want there to be a little boundary to show up, and you can mark it as, you know, inset, and you put underneath inset to scale.
Right.
So what I would do in that regard is I would be out here in paper space, and just like you've done here on this line, you see it's on this title block line work.
Yeah.
So let's make that our current layer. So if I choose this command right here beside the layer pull down called make object layer current, that's now my current layer, and I'm going to just draw a circle. And I'm going to go from the center of my viewport, and I'm going to go outside of it just a wee bit so I can independently select the viewport if I need to. So there's that. And I'm going to select that circle that's on here, and I'm going to change the line style to just be dashed. There we go. So now when we plot, you'll see that dashed line. And let's set its line weight to be a specific 0.20. Should be good. So now when we do that, we can put our excuse me, our text label, you know, down here. I would just call it you know, inset : 1 inch equals, what did we say we had it, 20 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 inch equals 20 feet. So I would just do that, just do a piece of text and put it there, and then
12 is way too big for paper space, isn't it?
yeah. This is just plain old text, so just, you want to make it 0.1. 0.1 is in this case, it will be inches. So 0.1 is a tenth of an inch. It's like Leroy 100. You might, yeah, that's fine. You can try that and see. You make it taller if you need to later. Or you could just copy, see that location map that's up there above?
Yeah.
You could just copy that and bring it down.
Oh, that's a good idea. Why don't I do that?
Just press escape, and there you go. Perfect. And then I would just change location to inset and then 400 to 20. Well, okay, you could retype the whole thing if you like.
Should I put a space between? Just the equal?
I normally do, but I'm looking at, and if you do, I would also do that on the 1 inch equals 400 feet. So, you know, the key is to be consistent.
Oops, I hit escape and it put it back the way it was.
That's all right. Now, everything's selected, so just double click the word location. Now type inset, and it only replaces what's selected. Okay, now you can go over and select the 400 and yeah, or then also select, yeah, perfect, like that. And then, yeah, now that's going to get 1 inch equals also, so click.
Won't let me click.
Yeah, it's a
Probably
little,
because there's no space between the equals.
no, it's not that, is you just have to be, there you go. Now, and like I'm using the arrows on the keyboard,
Okay,
and then if you want to put a space in it, it would look like that. So then you could also go up here and put a space. Now notice, see the cursor is still the pick cursor, because
Yeah.
it's still letting me select an annotation object, because I can go over here and pick one here, one here, one here, just keep making edits. When I'm done, I need to hit enter. And that's awfully easy to forget or to lose track of.
escape works too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So there you go.
Okay,
Now,
now can I use the command? There's a survey. Let me find it here. Might be under annotate. Yeah, survey text.
mhm.
Can I use the offset dimension to put dimensions from the property corner to the building and from the edge of the building to the property line? Is that what you would use?
Yeah, you could do that. But what I would do here, Mike, is again with this, well, no, go ahead and do it. I'll show you what I mean. And because we're going to go back into the other viewport and freeze the layer that it's on. Okay. Yeah, and you're going to have to snap to the center. There you go. Now this is trying to make perpendicular. See what it's doing?
Yeah, so I'll go.
That might not be, no. I mean, that command is doing that. So I'd press escape. Maybe that's not the right command. The reason it's doing that is think about when you have a building out here, for instance, and you draw the offset, it's
Yeah.
always perpendicular to the property line. So that's why it was snapping and it snaps perpendicular. That's why it was trying to do that.
Okay, well, still need to do it from this corner to the property line.
Right. But what we'll do instead of that command is we're just going to use a straight old annotate.
Okay.
So we're going to go up here to annotate and
Angle distance and just do distance.
correct. And so we're going to come down here and just find a distance on the top. And now you see, it says select a line, which is what we normally do, but one of the options is size or P for points.
Right.
So if we say points, so we specifically give it a point. Now it wants us to pick the first point or a point number. So if you knew the point number that we froze, we could have used that. But I'll snap to that center, and now the next point is going to be that end point. Okay, and that was 51.61 feet, and I'm going to hit enter to finish. Now, what has happened is if we look over here,
Yeah, I see it.
you see, and we froze that layer there. So we're going to want to see what layer that was and change that. So that was on anode boundary. So let's make a new layer called anode boundary. Let's first of all, here's a little trick I'll show you. If you sit on a current layer, or if you make a layer current, like anode boundary, if you
Yeah.
double click on it and make it current,
Yeah.
then when you do a new layer, it inherits all of the properties of that layer. So line type, line weights, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I'm going to call that anode boundary inset.
Okay.
Except I'm going to take that space out. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to put that anode dash boundary dash inset in as that layer name. And now I can be current on there. I don't have to be current on that, but let me see what we called that. That was anode boundary. Now we got one called inset. All right. Now, so what I need to do is select that piece of annotation and change that to
And boundary inset.
inset. And now while I'm in this inset, or while I'm inside this viewport, I'm going to freeze that layer. So that won't show up on the main map. But now, so how do I get it once I'm here to
Oh, we should have done a distance with leaders, I guess.
yeah, maybe so. Okay, so we can do this, but there's something else I want to do as well. Now, without changing the scale of the drawing, okay, because we're working on this specific inset. So if I were to go up here and change my drawing setup scale so that this would be a normal, 1/10 of an inch instead of, looking huge here. But so what we're going to do is we're going to change some of these sizes. So now that we know that, we know what layer it's going to go on, I'm going to just double click inside here. I'll select that and we'll delete it. And we'll go back and redo that command. Now make sure when we're doing this, that we are inside the viewport so that it's going to put these things in model space. It's just as if we had gone to the model tab and done it. But
Right.
we can do it from here, but although I don't want it stuck out here in paper space, I want it to be associated with this geometry. So now that we are there, we are on, currently we're on layer 0. So I'm going to put this on anode boundary what you call it, inset. All right, so I'm there ready to go. Now, if you recall, when we do these annotations and we just said we just did this and chose distance, and then it just asks us to pick, we put it on there. So now I think let's look at O for options. I don't think we can get to it from here as to what I want. Wait, we can change a couple of things about it. Not really what I want, but what I want to do is while I'm here, you see this general settings. That's going to bring up our annotate defaults. These are our global defaults. That's why this text size scaler is 0.08, but that's 0.08 at this scale over here. So we're going to need to make these smaller. We're going to also need to make changes to the layer and the text size. and whether we're going to use those crow's feet and that sort of thing. So, but what we're going to do is, so we can, no, hang on. Well, let me send him a quick text to let him know I'll call him back. All right, now, all right, so what I want to do is, while I'm here, to be able to reset everything back without having to change each one, and remember, I'm going to come down here to the bottom, I'm going to say save. And I'm just going to go here to my, I'll leave it in pointing to my settings folder. And I'm just going to call these my annotate global defaults. See, right now we've got a couple of them here called Jeffco auto annotate. So we've done this before, but this anno global defaults, I'll save that there. Now, when we start making changes, then when we go back the next time we want to do it at normal scale, we're going to load and put those back. All right. So for now, we're going to go to our distance. Well, we need to do the size first. So that was at 0.08, and we are, what was this other?
1 inch to 150.
So 150, and we are at 20. So what's our difference there? Is 7.5? Yep, 7.5. So 0.08 divided by 7.5. So 0.01 should be, should make it work out correctly. And this 0.04 divided by 7.5 is 0.005. And some change. I'll throw the change in there. Line type, text scalar. We'll leave that at 1. That's no big deal. Flip times, previous labels. We'll say prompt before erasing, just okay. Spaces between the bearing and distance, it doesn't matter for us. Draw leaders to the endpoints. Leader size scalar, the text is 0.01. So we'll make this 0.06. See what that does for us. Let's see. Distance labels only. Height, the offset, the arrow. Arrow. Arc. Now the leader layer, we're going to put everything on this anno boundary inset for now. Height scalar, so 0.08 divided by that 7.5, we'll put that to that. 0.02, 7.5 divides the 0.002. 6667. And the arrow scalar is 0.01. All right, I think these are what we want. Let's see, draw leaders to endpoints on arc. That's not going to matter for us. All right, and then we're going to look at the distance tab, and we're going to change this layer now to that layer. So it's going to go on that one, and let's see, do we need to do anything else? Decimal units, distance units,
Distance type is ground.
okay, which will, in terms of, I mean, you're in state plane right now?
Yeah.
On your setup, so that the state plane system.
It's not gonna matter at that distance anyway.
Right, but the state plane system is a grid system. Whereas otherwise it would be geodetic, so that would be your ground distance. It follows along the geodesic, either at mean sea level or at zero elevation. There are only two choices. It's interesting. All right, so, but either case, now let's see, drop trailing, use commas. I think that's all we'll need. We'll say, okay, well, first of all, we'll say save. And let's go to I'm not going to put it in my settings, but I'm going to, what is our project? This Campbell or, okay, Campbell. And I'm going to call this inset map NO defaults. Now, the reason I switched folders is because the next time I run this on another project, I don't want to necessarily just go grab that one unless I know for sure that my ratio of standard scale to inset scale is exactly the same. So, but I've got it there if I have to reload it and make any changes. All right, so now I'm going to say okay. And so that has set everything there. And that was from that general settings. Remember, we're in the middle of this line label.
Right.
Those options. So now you can say okay to the options. I'll let you take it from there. So go ahead and click OK. And now it's asking to pick a point. So you're going to go from the center and go to that corner. There you go. Okay.
And escape.
Yeah, either that or enter, one of the two.
Okay, then I need to go from here to there. That would be perpendicular. So I would use the
Yeah, you could do that.
oops.
Now you see we got the same issue. Let's escape that and let's go to back to the command, to the menu, to the annotate menu, and where we did that one was in the survey text. So let's go back to survey text and let's reset the survey text defaults. So now we are not doing building dimensions, or will you be?
No.
Okay, so we can ignore everything in that box. And let's look only on the right-hand side where it says offset dimensions. So let's change the layer. Let's go ahead and put that on our NO boundary inset. Wait, cancel this. Let's hit save. And we'll leave it set to settings, and we're going to call this survey text NO. And then, yeah, say okay, save. All right, now let's change it. Back up to that layer. We'll change that to our NO boundary inset and go ahead. And now the text size scalar, where it says 0.08. If we take 0.08 divided by 7.5, it's 0.01 and some change, but we'll just leave it at 0.01. Same thing for the arrow size, 0.01. And decimal places. Yeah, okay. If you, all right, and he's in point snap, okay, that's all. Offset from line, you see that 0.04?
Yeah,
So we're gonna want that to be it's negative 0.005. And again, the reason we're doing that is because it's 7.5 times and we're not changing our global setup. So now we'll say, okay. And now let's try the survey text. Or offset rather, yeah. Now let's zoom in there so you can, there you go. So you can position that. So I would slide it a little further to the left. Keep moving keep going. Yeah, see what it's gonna now. Well, get this arrowhead off of this line. So pull it back right in there. Yeah, go ahead and click. And now what we've done is we've got this, but you know, it's not clear as to that's the corner it's going to. So
Right.
that's what's called see, this whole thing is just a dimension. If you look up here and you select it, you see it says it's an aligned dimension.
Mhm.
Okay. But what we need to show is the extension line. And we've got that suppressed for this particular thing. In fact, I can take this, you see how I can do that? Well, that's another option maybe.
Yeah, that's
Or
pretty
I
good.
could, yeah, or I could put it out there, you know, but anyway, once this is done, it is a dimension. So I'm going to change some of the behavior for that dimension. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to select it and I'm going to look at the properties. And if you look over here, it says extension line 1 is off. Now, I don't know which one is, I think this is 1 and 2 because that's the order we picked. Sometimes you just have to try it and see. Yep, that was it. So that was now. So if I look at that, that's going to show like so, but I really want to change a couple of thing. I would really want that to be that's my extension line. So I want the extension line extension to be 0.005, I think. And the extension line offset, let's just try. No, that's still not. So what I'm trying to do with those numbers, and why do I not see? Extension line extension. There we go. Yeah, that's what I was looking to do. Is to select that. And so now if we look at this, see how that looks like we've dimensioned it. And now if I also want to change the behavior for making this text work, and right now it says text movement, keep the dimension line with the text. Let's move the text and add a leader. So you can do, you know, Okay, so how come this? Did you miss that corner?
I didn't think so, but maybe. It looks like I must have.
Well, let me
I
see,
missed
maybe
that
not.
center too.
No, no, maybe not. I think there's I think maybe there's an offset to that. Let me take a quick peek at there. If that's the case, do we have, all right, draw leaders. Height. Yeah, right there, we did an offset. So all it does, this distance is still that number. But when it created these leaders, that offset, that's meant to be able to pull this arrowhead back from where we picked. So, but what I really want to do is, because that's zoomed in that tight, I'm just going to move this. And I'll go from that endpoint to the center. No, you know what? And now, yes. So now I'm going to rotate this about the center of the arc. Whoops, let me do it so I can show it. So I'm going to say from the center of the arc, and where I'm going to specify the rotation angle, I'm going to go from the center of this circle. Rotate. Rotation point is the center of this. Specify the rotation angle. So R for reference. There we go. Now the center of this to right there. Let's see here, rotate from the center of this. Specify the rotation angle. Base angle is center of this to the end of this. Yeah.
What is it that you're trying to do?
I'm just trying to pull the arrowhead out of that a little ways. And I've got something's not working right. What do you normally use for your snaps? Endpoint and
Endpoint. Well, endpoint's generally what I use.
okay.
Sometimes center.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't normally keep it on, I only want the ones that you normally keep on. One of our commands that we interrupted turned it off in the middle of the command and neglected to put it back on. All right, so now if I rotate this about the center point of this, oh, I know what I did, darn it. My reference angle is from the center of this to the center of this. And now I want that to go. So yeah, there we go. So I just want to pull it back so that it points to that point. And this now I'm going to move from there to there. And I'm going to do the same thing there. I'm going to rotate from the center of this by reference, center of this to this, and I'm just going to pull it back a little bit so you can get a little daylight in there. See?
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry about that. That shouldn't have been such a tedious issue, but it was. And now this one, let me see what these we don't know. This needs a slightly different arrow size. Let's see. 2 point. No, that's too big. 2.1. 2.0. I don't know why those decimals aren't showing up. See, we interrupted something. There we go. Now I can look at that and I can see those numbers. There we go. That's all right. So that arrowhead size now is a little bit better matches. And if I take this and I can scoot this out a little bit this way. Or I'm just trying to get those arrowheads clear. Unfortunately, the line, see right there's where it should be really to be the clearest off of this line, but this is not, you know, well, I could do this. Turn the extension line to on. Not so sure I like all that. Let me see here. I also want to change this line weight to be a little, not quite. There we go. So we'll make it a little bit lighter than a little bit lighter weight than the building. Why are you doing this? There we go. That's a little bit more clarity. And these I'll also make my line weight a little lighter than the building, so it's not competing with it. So Now let's try this. Uh, uh, I think I like it better like that. There we go. Now everything is,
Okay, I'd like to change that 51.61. I'd like to change that to just 51.6.
oh, no problem. And again, because once that annotation is put in there, now you could redo it. You could go back and set all your defaults and change that to a 10th, but once it's done, it's just text, just like this is just a dimension.
Right.
So that's what I would do, is just come over there and make and edit the text,
Yep, that's good.
and then escape to finish that up. Okay. Now, yeah, I think that's got, it's, we have to be this big to be able to get that dimension there, but we don't have any information in here that shows, which is fine. But I think that's what we want. Now, before we finish, or let's take a look and let's see, let's save that. If we were to plot this,
We need to remember to go back and change all of our settings back to where they were too.
right, that's what I was getting ready to say, is we want to, before we make sure that we're done here, and then we'll go ahead and set those back. So, but if I want to take a quick peek at this is this our right folder?
Yes.
All right, we're just going to call this test. I just want to take a peek of it. So once it pops up, if it does bring it up, there we go. And that, I think, looks fine. Let's compare. We've got text out here that is that size. That text looks is a little bit small. I'm sort of trying to match.
Yeah, it does look small.
So let's go now, that even though we've done it and our changes, we should, I don't want to go back and run the commands again.
Right.
I'm just going to edit these things. So I'm going to select, well, first of all, let's see what we've got. We've got text out here. This text is 0.1. So at 1 inch equals 20 feet, that needs to be 2 feet to be 0.1. And height, yeah, 1.5. So let's make it 2. And this guy, we want to, now because it's a dimension, we have to dive into the text part of that and change it from 1.5 to 2. There we go. And let's go ahead and set this up to be a tenth of an inch, which would be 2 feet. If I were to draw a circle from the center of this at a radius of 1, huh. That must be what size it is already. Okay, so we actually guessed that one pretty correctly. All right, so that works out. All right, so I think that'll work. So we'll save that. And I'll let you drive. You can go back to the annotate and reload those defaults. So we go to the annotate menu, the annotate defaults. And down at the bottom where it says load save. There you go. And you want to go back now to
Global,
yeah.
open.
All right, so that's good. Say okay.
Do I need to save it or just?
No,
Okay.
to save it is where you name it a file name.
Okay,
So now, and also go to the annotate menu, do the survey text defaults. And load. Pick up the, and that's the ones we saved. So we'll choose that survey text anno and say open and say okay. Now you're back in business.
okay, don't have to change anything else.
Don't believe.
Okay, let me ask you another question.
Yep.
If you look at these two symbols here, this is a rebar that I'm going to set. This is an unmarked point, and on the plat that is pretty clear. You can see the difference between the two of them.
Okay.
But on the legend, even though this is you can see what it is, SPT 5, which is right.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, here come this guy right here is where we want. So we're going to close the block editor now. So this unmarked point is not using the right one.
Well, it says it is.
It says SPT 5.
Oh, it did say SPT 11.
I don't know.
Okay, well, that should be easy to change then. SPT 11.
Yeah. So yeah, well, so what we need to do though is we need to see right now it's just grabbed a point. It's grabbed a block. That's not a point. It's not like I can't change that the same way. That's a block, and I need to just need to get that block. So what is, all right, this scale is 0.1. So I'm going to just go right up to here. Well, first of all, let me see that's on layer legend. So I'm going to set current, choose that. That's now set to legend. That's fine. So, and I'm going to leave that one there when I draw this symbol. Just so I have something to find. So that's SPT 11, and the scale was 0.1. I think we said. Say okay, and I'm going to go to the center of that. Now, so there's the one. But if I choose, how many do I have in here? Ah. How did it? I don't know how did it erase the previous one?
I don't know.
That was strange indeed. Well, in any case, that's how to do them. Now, do you need to indicate property line over here as well?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. I would take these guys, move them.
Okay, and how do you, what do you hold again to make it go and,
To make it go what?
to make it ortho?
Oh, just the shift key.
Okay,
So if I select and now I'm going to say move, I'm just going to click a point in space. And then I'm going to hold the shift key down. And that lets it go up like this. Now, I've got this I'm going to copy. And I'm going to just, again, in space and hold the shift key down. I'll put one there. And now do I need, see what, I've got property line, but do you also, is there a merger line, like a heavy one?
no, we're not doing a merger here. This is just a boundary survey.
All right, so we'll put these back down now. So I'm just going to click and sort of eyeball that. All right, now that is fine there. We'll change this and just call it do you call it like boundary property line or property boundary
Property
line?
line's fine. It's
Property
fine.
line. Okay, yep. All right. And then we want to make that which is right now color 53. So we'll make it by layer. Line type will be by layer. And we're going to put it on boundary. And voila.
Very good.
Okay. Let's see, now make sure that, okay, you're scaled up correctly there. All right, I think that looks good. Save that and good to go. Anything else?
No, this is an interesting situation. Let me talk to you about it just as a matter of interest. There's a house on each one of these lots. And the view, they're right on the, this is a steep cliff to the river. It's probably 100 feet vertically from top of the cliff to the river. And it's a sheer cliff. It's scary just going up and down it.
Wow.
And the house that sits on this lot is like a weekend home that they paid like $700,000 for 10 years ago.
Yeah.
and you can see up the river. Well, somehow they became aware of this encroachment. This shed belongs to the property over here. This
Uh-huh.
also has a house on it with the same type of view up the river. So to resolve the conflict, they bought this house and lot, which they paid $900,000 for.
Wow.
So
Was
these
this guy,
people
is this guy a politician?
develop real estate developer.
Yeah. Okay.
Husband and wife, they both are real estate developers.
Wow.
But I mean, the price just shocked me to resolve a shed relocation.
Good heavenly days.
You
And
could tie a tractor around it. You could move it with a tractor and a chain. It's just a wooden shed. It's not even on a foundation.
well, is all they wanted to move was the shed, or do they want to move that other house too?
No, they're probably going to use the house as a guest house.
Well, that makes sense if, I mean, almost $1 million just to get a spare bedroom. That's a little excessive, but you know.
Well, the other interesting thing is that they've built, and I haven't shown this yet. I have to finish locating it in the field. They've built a set of stairs that goes down the cliff. They're very steep stairs, and there are a bunch of back and forths. Well, the stairs are completely on the adjacent property. So that's a problem that has yet to be resolved, and I don't know how they're going to resolve it. They haven't asked me for any advice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's between them and the lawyers and the neighbors.
Right. And they've just told me that they don't want to record the plat, and that's probably why, because I'm going to show that that staircase. And I may need, when I get ready to draft that as an inset, I may need to get your help on that one too.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know, most of this plat, except for what we just did today, I did by myself, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mike, I'm really impressed with the way you're putting these things together. That they really look good. They're good and not just visually pleasing, but they're surveyor good. You know, they're showing what you need to know. Of course, that's something that you've always had, but it's these visually pleasing cartographic things that and even if all you're doing at this point is going out and finding you know, another one to copy, that's fine. But they're really looking good. Now, one thing I just did notice, this is one of those departure lines.
Yeah.
And that is, it's on a joiner by layer by layer. Okay. So this line in the legend is shown as solid. See, it shows as this line.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to make that by layer. And because it's on layer legend, oh, not by layer. Yes, by layer. I need to put that on a joiner, and we'll set this color to by layer. And let's see, this line type scale of 1, boundary by layer. By layer, by layer, by layer. That's a joiner. Was this?
How come the other one isn't like that then?
I'm getting ready to find out. That is on a joiner.
Or is there more than one joiner layer?
My layer line type scale is 1. So, and if I'm here, everything's the right scale. Okay. So yeah, it might be. Let's see what we've got here. We've got, no, it's just the 1. It's a line. By layer, a joiner, by layer, scale. see something. Huh. See, that should be. Did I change the? Let's make sure it reacts to all of these, which it's doing. A joiner.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is the joiners on all the other plats I've done haven't had the two dashes. They've just been a solid line like on that joiner departing line. So I actually might rather change it in the drawing.
Well, I know, but
But the question is, why is it different?
yes, because this, well, first of all, it's a polyline. And this is a line, but I don't think that should matter. Let's try it and see. If I say entities to polylines. If I change to a joiner, and if I draw a 2D polyline, I know exactly what it is, and I can't believe I'm sitting here and figured it out. Remember how I told you you can change line types and stuff for various viewports?
Yeah.
In this viewport, while I'm in this viewport, a joiner has a different line style. So if I look at, let's sort by name here. So if I look at a joiner, it's got a continuous line style globally. See the continuous, but over here in the viewport stuff, it right there, phantom.
Yeah, let's make that solid.
So you want to change that in
Yeah,
the drawing as well. Okay.
yeah. That's the way I've done it on all the other plats. I think that's the way the planning commission likes it, although they'll probably never see this plat.
Yeah. Okay, so there you go. And now they match.
Yep.
Everything's saved and good to go. All right.
Now, let me ask you another question while I've got you.
Yep.
I've been looking at some other plats online. I periodically just go on and I actually, frankly, like my plats better, but I like the other plats that are being done.
Mhm.
But I do have a question about, and I haven't had occasion to do this yet, but if you look, can you see that plat?
Yes.
You see all these cultural features that they've shown? I don't believe for a minute that they actually had a survey crew go out and locate all that stuff.
I would I would agree. I would say they're just
So they've gotten the images from somewhere. And you don't have to answer the question right now, but I'd like to find a source of images. And maybe it's just Google Earth, I don't know. But I've known that several surveyors, both one's my size, and this is a fairly big company actually that's done this.
yeah. Zoom into that and let me take a look at it for a second, if you can.
I can.
Yeah, okay, right there. So that, yeah, so it looks like they've got all those buildings and, but now it looks like the dimensioned calls on the center line of the road, those are all the surveyed features.
Yeah,
But,
well, they probably did locate this
right,
road,
right, but those
but I doubt if
buildings,
they located all of these buildings.
yeah, and you can tell because they're sort of or they're not pixelated, they've got that point, look, it's called screened.
Well, and
Uh,
there's another one, well, like this,
yeah, those over there too. So you see the dots like it's,
and the ponds and things like that. I don't believe
yeah,
for a minute that they located those.
correct. Nor does it look like they did these interior parcels either. It looks like that's just an image. Now, so here's how they do that. They either have an old plat or a different plat that had that on it, and they scanned it, turned it into an image, and then just like your flood maps on your location map, those are all just images. And so they moved it into position and scaled it. Now, the only way this works is if they're at a relatively stable scale, that it's going to match what they've got to match. And it hasn't stretched, differentially or anything like that. And now you can make it match.
Do you know these guys?
I do. I've taught them classes twice now. Yeah, I know one time I was at
Let me show you another plat that I've
uh,
got here somewhere.
yeah, I was at their offices there in Hollidaysburg, teaching one class, and had one of the guys in the class had a real attitude issue. He didn't want to be using Carlson, and so he decided to start taking it out by sniping at me. So, but
Really? How did that go? How did that work for him?
yeah, it didn't work real well. He got a little bit humiliated in front of his peers, which I put off until the last minute. And then the next day, the owner of the company calls me into his office to address an issue. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I guess I really kind of screwed things up. And but it turns out he was basically on my side. He's yeah, I figured you might have had that, and he said, I'm just surprised you waited as long as you did. So, but I believe that was while I was working with Harry. It might have been after we pulled off and I was working with Mike, but I think it was Harry's. Still, I don't recall. Anyway.
Well, there's is there a public source of information like that, or one that
Well,
you could buy? Or
well, sometimes there is, but often there's not, or what is publicly available is not drawn enough to scale. Because if you look at your location map, I mean, that's something that was publicly available, and that's there, and you could just as easily put that underneath your map and scale it and rotate it and move it into place. But you would find that the parcel lines are way out of whack. They just won't
Right.
match,
Right.
so. But there could be, cultural things, building footprints and stuff like that. So where those usually come from, with modern up-to-date information, is from a GIS. Okay, so whether the county has one that you can use or not. But it looks like on that Keller map that those were probably from an old plat that somebody had prepared, and they scaled it, and therefore it was screened and sort of shown as background information. But and again, though, when they put the old plat together, did somebody go out there and physically survey those structures, or did they just eyeball them down because they knew, what was out there? And there's no answer to that. You just
Right.
don't. So to answer the question, yes, sometimes there are publicly available things that you can get, but not universally. I can't say, oh yeah, go to the National, Association of Background Map Information. There's nothing like that. It just depends on where you are and what it is you need to show. Just like you found, you've got floodplains, you've got, and even on your properties, on some of your property stuff, that you can turn the buildings on and off, that's a GIS, what you're looking at. It's just not a very accurate one for the parcel lines.
Right.
So that's really, unfortunately, the only answer you got there, but so if you can get your hands on any of the old plats and get them scanned, then that's a nice way to to show, to enhance a little bit of information without having to survey it all.
Right.
Mm.
Well, I think I'm good for this one for now.
All righty.
When I finish the detail on those steps, I might need to get you to help me with that.
Yeah, we'll just make a second inset. Then at that point, we might need to go back and relabel those like C inset A, C inset B.
Right.
And then label them accordingly, but we can do that. And I would say we would, like we've got room over on the right-hand side to make another inset, but I would prefer to make these insets, keep them both on this side, because that's where you are looking at the map.
Well, we could move the legend to the other side.
We could do that. We could also change that viewport from being a circle to being a skinny rectangle that goes across, but that's a little odd. I like the circles as blow-ups myself. You could, you see some maps and we're not going to do it, but you see sometimes they'll do something like, is that her? Yeah, there's her thing, but you'll see somebody do stuff like, this will go from, where's that quadrant here? There we go. You'll see things like,
Yeah, I've seen those.
you've seen that kind of stuff. It's like I said, we're not going to do that here. It gets a little silly here, but sometimes, and like sometimes if like your inset's right beside, a corner here, you can pull that out to show it. And yeah, that's, you can overload some of these. And as you've come to learn and appreciate, I believe, you can see how these are all a matter of, it's a constant refinement of visual presentation and all that. Now, one thing I just now noticed as we're talking about this, you see the scale of this property line, see how that repeats at a certain, and that sort of matches this one. But
Right.
look at this one that we're looking at here. See how that looks doubled that. And if I recall, we went through here and we had selected these, and line type scale is, no, that's a 1. Oh, that comes around here. But then what's this one? That is also, it's just an illusion. That is exactly the same, huh? So if I pick those 2 dashes and these in and put them right up, yeah, they would match. Okay, all right. And if I did that, yeah, now you see what I just did there?
Yeah.
Watch the patterning. If I say yes, line type generation, it starts here and it starts creating that line type and it runs through any points along the way without restarting, but that
Right.
sometimes can put you in an awkward spot. So if you turn that off, then every time it gets to a decimal or a vertex, it restarts the pattern. Now,
Right.
that only works if, because what could happen here and what usually would happen, like say down here, is that this becomes all solid because it's all within this thing here. And every time it hits a point, it restarts.
Right.
So, a lot of times I like to experiment with these and see. Now there's one that goes here and it goes all the way around. And I think you'll find that that's set, optimally. I think if I turn that off here, yeah, so you see what that does? That
Right.
keeps that, but it makes this continuously solid.
Right.
So I'm going to say undo that and put that back. To yes, so that you can see the pattern through there. Here's something too, you might want to,
Yeah.
bring that off. But I'm going to let you do all those cleanups. You know how to do that. Your stuff is looking good. Just go over it, when you're done, go over it to find those little things, and remember the rules. Consistency is a hallmark of excellence and
Right.
all that good stuff. Okay.
Okay. Very good.
All righty. I'll send you a link when we get it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You are most welcome. Take care.
You too. Bye.